You about how to upgrade to Flow Connect. We've spent a lot of time, I think over the past day and a half, talking about Flow Connect, and it's due time that we end up saying how to get there. So we have a bit of an agenda here. I'll try to breeze through some of this. As we said, we're a little bit behind, but I did try to map out this process for customers, and there is a part in the process where you all have to make a decision. But it doesn't start at the beginning. So the first step in upgrading to Connect is just to show some interest. Talk to us, make sure that we understand that you are someone who wants to upgrade. And I'll talk through the channels that you can use to get this done. The second step is that we go through a questionnaire as of today. That questionnaire talks a little bit about how are you using the product, right? Properties was brought up for an example. I've heard a few other portlets today are being used that maybe we don't have. This will all be brought to light inside this questionnaire. Then what we'll do in turn out of that questionnaire is provide implementation gaps. So we will let you know the things that we may be missing or how to work around those things. I'll talk slightly about this today. And it might mean feature availability. So there might be features that are missing inside of Connect that aren't available yet, and we would give you a timeline for when those will be available. The next step would be signing an agreement. So the agreement talks a little bit about how we host, some details around going to a subscription model. All those questions can be answered by our sales team, but there is a new agreement that gets put in place. And this is where we start to talk about what you have as an option in the path of Connect. So the self-service model is available. I'll talk a little bit about that. That is the petter journey that he showed the other day. This is you doing the upgrade yourself, which is completely possible. The other option is to use what we refer to as the upgrade factory. That is a Novacura-led upgrade process where we take on all the hard work for you, and what you get left with are your apps running in inside of Flow Connect. And then we had a couple of questions here this week, which is good, about parallel runs. So once we do this upgrade, we can still support parallel running of both environments. We typically do this for about a month at this point. That could be extended, that could be shortened. In KLN's case, they talked a little bit about them only using a week of that month. They felt that confident. So there is the option of running both side by side and running them to check performance, running them to check that the applications execute the same way, but we do not shut down the classic environment. And then the final step would be that we get a go decision on shutting down your old environment. So let's talk a little bit of details about this process. The first step is just showing interest. There's a few different channels we offer to show interest. The first one is you can go on our website, novacura.com, just go to the contact us form, tell us you're interested. This will kick off a process behind the scenes for us where we will reach out and start that questionnaire. Also, for those existing customers, you are welcome to go on JSM. If you don't know what JSM is, it's Jira Service Management. It's used as our system for support. You can drop a ticket in there. Again, the same process will launch off. And then the last is just talk to your account managers. Speak to your account manager, tell them you have interest. They will reach out to us, and that could also launch the process. From there, we typically go through a questionnaire. This is your opportunity to get to speak to me. I will jump on a call with you and I will ask you a lot of questions you may not know the answers to. But I will show you how to get to the right spot inside a studio. We'll talk through what the issues may be. The questionnaire is also offered online. I put a QR code up here. If you're curious to see what your use is and what we're curious of how you use our application, you can go online here and answer those questions. It's a little bit daunting. My suggestion, generally speaking, is we'll set up a call and we could talk through it. And that's usually done through some type of collaborative meeting. What we do want is in these meetings, we ask someone has production access to the environment. That means that they can tell us a little bit about how tools are being used inside of production. We'll talk a little bit about how this works, but generally speaking, we'll get into some level of detail of how do the connectors authenticate. Are you using OAuth 2? And those become a little bit technical questions, right? So if it's someone more functional is the one we're taking the questions, but I'd be able to navigate you through all of those items inside the studio. Now, in Q4 this year, so next quarter, we're going to be releasing an upgrade companion. This is our way of hoping to automate this a bit better for you. So instead of us having to jump on a call and talk through the use, the upgrade companion will be a way to dive into some of the analytics. It's our first step in telemetry. The hope is that we can capture workflow executions, the connectors behind those executions, how do they authenticate in some configurations, and store those for visualization. From there, we'll be able to use these metrics to help you determine any gaps that you may have from going from Classic to Connect. Today, we have this actually relatively well available for cloud-based customers. So we have what they call AI Insights in Azure that helps support this. But on the on-premise customers, we sadly aren't in the same boat, right? It becomes a conversation that typically has to happen. So if you're not running 6.15, here's my push to say, go to 6.15. When 6.15 is available in the next quarter, we'll do a packaged update for 6.15, and that will include this upgrade companion. Not only will it provide analytics that we can help support you guys on your journey to Flow Connect, it'll also help you see how your users are executing flows, right? So a very frequent question that we get from our customers is, how do I know which workflow is the most executed workflow on the system? How often is it being executed, right? The upgrade companion is a good way to get those answers. The next step is bridging some of those gaps. So inevitably, there will be an issue, something that we don't offer in Flow Connect that you use in Flow Classic. There are workarounds for each of those. Most of those, Petter talked a little bit about it in his journey. So changing things like swim lanes to seated inboxes. There's a bigger list than that. I put a couple up here. User text and table properties is another good example of one that isn't available. Machine users currently aren't available. Some of the gaps that we have, we will come to you and say, might be better to wait a quarter. Give us 1 quarter and we'll have that functionality, or maybe it's 2 quarters. Some of them will give you suggestions on new ways to do it, like user text and table properties. Those are currently being stored in third-party systems like Infor M3, IFS, or a SQL database. And then we encrypt the traffic in transit, which allows us to be a bit more secure about how we handle the data. Then you'll come to signing a new agreement. Agreement looks a little something like this. It is a new subscription agreement. And in that agreement, you may also have terms for us to handle the upgrade for you in the upgrade factory. That will talk a little bit about the apps that we will be lifting, how long it would take, when the project kicks off, so on and so forth. So you can take the self-service route. The self-service route is available to all customers. If you end up taking this route, the first step in the process is that we as Novacura will need to create you an organization. This takes 30 seconds. We can create you one, and then from there, invite a user onto that. Now, the first user we typically invite, we suggest to be some type of admin, an organizational admin who would be able to adopt other customers onto the platform. And the reason we do this is because typically the first user does sign up through Microsoft Entra ID, which means they also need to be some type of tenant admin to be able to accept rights on behalf of your organization. So that means that they're usually someone with a bit more security access behind your Microsoft tenant. Once we do that, we get to a part of the process where I find that customers get maybe slightly confused. So for the customers who are using the connector service, I think this becomes really tangible. For customers who aren't using connector services yet, there's a little bit of knowledge gap here that I try to talk through. We have the capability inside of Connect of creating agent groups. Agent groups are a really nice way to route traffic. They're a way for us to handle large loads of data in production and non-production instances. So when you saw the demo from Petter just yesterday, he talked a little bit about setting up these agent groups in non-production and production environments. And what this allows you to do is set up agents and then route traffic to those specific agents in layman's terms. What this could help you do is make sure that the communication you're having on your non-production ERP instances does not impact the production instances. So you may have a UAT coming up where you have 500 users that you're trying to go at Novacura Flow Connect with, connected to your UAT IFS. If you do that, that same communication won't impact or cause latency on your production communication. And that's the power that comes along with agent and agent groups. So our first suggestion to all customers before looking at how to scale this is just start with a non-prod agent group and a production agent group. From there, you're going to create an agent group token. That agent group token allows us to securely communicate with the next step, which is the agent manager. The agent manager is an installer that goes behind your firewall. So this is the way that allows us to communicate to your on-premise systems if you have them. For those who do use the CS, which is our connector service, this is a similar function. However, we like to call this the one-stop shop. Where a CS has many different versions across all the different connectors, this is one agent installer to rule them all. So it has all of our connectors packaged in one. Once this is installed, all you need to do is set up an agent. That agent needs that token that we created in the original step. And again, securely communicate between our hub and your installer or your agent. And I like to tell you here that there is the opportunity to have many agents set up to one agent group. So the benefits of that become now redundancy of networking, right? If you put these on separate VMs, one VM goes down, your communication could still run. You could have 3 agents installed to one agent group, and you can update them by themselves. And what that means is that you don't have to take any downtime in production for communication. So there's a lot of benefits in the way that we have our communication path set up now to distribute traffic. And once this is all done, you can actually just configure a connector. That connector will then be able to communicate back and forth with your systems. The configuration was shown the other day, but it is pretty similar, if not identical, to what you see in Classic. And I won't dive into the details of each of these, but I think there's 2 options from here. Petter showed both yesterday, actually. We did the import from archive, which will take the WAP files, and we did do the import into applications, which takes the flow files. Either one of those is an option for you if you choose to go down the self-service route. But what we typically find at this point for the customers that we have upgraded is that they let us do it for them. So they go down our proven methodology track. We refer to this internally as the upgrade factory. It is a dedicated group of Novacura individuals that are helping support the upgrade. The benefit of this is that we've done the upgrade a few times now. We've learned from the upgrade a few times. We know the tweaks and changes that happen, and therefore we typically can do it at a quicker pace. You know, I think you saw this week already that KLN was successful. Petter's talked a little bit about our journey to it. We have more customers than just that. Someone asked me the number just the other day. We have 6 named customers sitting on this product line right now, which is really exciting. And I think KLN was a good describer of this and how easy the process was for them, right? The benefit of this journey where we take on the work is it is minimal impact to you all. The process starts very similar, but we break down the timeline a little bit differently. What we ask of our customers is that they give us a list of apps, they export those apps, we move the applications for them. We do our own testing in this process, and then we ask that the customer does a separate set of UAT testing. Does it work the way you expect it to work? Did we miss something? Our testers will take, I like to refer to as the happy path of a process, right? We're often going down the route that is the easiest and possibly the best, most commonly used. So we expect that you will take it through its own set of testing. And then we go through this period of 1 month where we're running a POC phase. Both are running in parallel, and we refer to this as the hypercare period. That hypercare period is an opportunity for you to come back to us for a whole month and say, you screwed it up. That app doesn't work. It doesn't do this when it should have done that, and we will fix it. We will take care of it. It is the benefit of Novacura Flow Connect is that we can just hop right into your organization, make some tweaks and changes. You will test it in dev and tell us if you want to deploy it to prod, or you could deploy it yourselves. At the end of this process, you will tell us as a final decision if you are happy to stay on Connect or not. You could say no, you could say yes. We haven't had a no yet, but it's been a really good process. I think in most of these cases, customers have told us that they've seen more benefits with it. It's easier to use, and just say to go ahead. So because these two systems connect side by side, it is just critical to note that we are able to run in parallel, right? You can run the same exact application on Connect and in Classic. Typically, the differences are the way that you log in, the application that you use on your mobile device. But if something were to go wrong in Connect, something doesn't work for you the way it should be, all you need to do is go back to the Flow Classic app and run it. These are just two side-by-sides of almost identical applications between Connect and Classic. And then afterwards, we would end up deciding to shut down the environment. Now, there is a case where I typically say we don't have the feature there yet. An example, Q4 this year, we will release machine workflows and offline applications. Those are two things we do not have yet. So if you use offline applications inside of your Flow Studio, we would tell you best case scenario is just to wait. Give us another quarter, we'll have the feature out, and then we can implement. In these cases, where you need to be updated as to when it gets released, my next slide will show you how to get to that. If you are a Flow Connect customer, if you're trying it out, if you're playing around, which we do offer and support, there is the ability just to go into the hub and see all of the activity. So as soon as we publish, you will see what's been published. Remember, we mentioned this earlier, that this is an evergreen application, which means we are continuing to publish changes. Typically, those changes are happening, I'd say, at this point on a bi-weekly basis to weekly basis. It depends on when the feature is ready, but they are continuing to come out. And for those, I think there's always this strain sometimes when we talk a little bit about this, but for those who are using the new web client today, you see this happening already, whether you know it or not. You get a little pop-up box at the bottom of the screen that says, you have a new update, click it, right? And it just updates your web client. So we are constantly making pushes to that. The mobile and Android and iOS apps, we are constantly making pushes to those apps, and you guys just accept them and take them into your mobile clients or even your web client. The same concept works here. We push the changes and they become available, which means as soon as we deliver a new feature, you get access to it. So tell customers, stay up to date. Over here, there's an update panel off to the left. It's a good way to get access to what we're doing inside of the Flow Connect world real time. And then for customers not on Connect, we do still keep our change logs. So if you don't know about this, if you go to docs.novacura.com, you are welcome to access our change logs at any point and see what we've been updating. I breezed through this in our last, in my last presentation. I wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about it today, because I think it's important to note when we have some of these larger features coming to Novacura Flow Connect. Our generalized goal, though, is this flow convergence, I like to refer to it as. It's where we want to get to be very applicable from Classic to Connect. It's where we want to have a majority of the features that support our customers in coming on board. The two heavy hitters there are offline applications. offline applications, and we also need machine workflows, both which are in the works. So we should have those at the either early Q4 or end of Q4 to support the customers who are using it. And then we'll take on some of these features in this global expansion item where we start to talk through features that maybe are less commonly used. Surprisingly, even though we have a lot of customers who are multilingual, our translation feature isn't used that often. So we find that more customers stick to one language, possibly English or Swedish, than actually that use multiple translations. However, you'll note that in the global expansions here, we do have things like translations, additional portlets. And then we get to a new way to develop flows. I think this, for us, will be the time where we start to talk about revolutioning the design of flows. We really want to be mobile-centric. I think we need to look at our sequential applications and change the way that we design vibrant screens, better layouts for our users in mobile. And that'll happen inside of the new way to flow. You'll hear us talk about this a lot as data-driven exits, page tree workflows. Sounds very technical, right? But if you're interested in seeing how we are planning on to design these items, you can always reach out to us. There is a QR code here at the end to user voice. That is where we are consistently pushing out the message of what we plan to do, expecting that we get some feedback back. And then I think the last one in here is this unified design. For us, we are trying to bring everything into Connect and unifying the experience across the board. We still have, from a technical perspective, what we call as thick clients, these things that you're downloading and using. And our journey needs to be seamless. We want to really take customers on to Connect and maybe net new or even existing customers and make that journey extremely smooth. Think of a process in your future where you download an app from the marketplace and we take you through the clicks of how to deploy it in the studio, right? We can't do that today in our thick client. And we dream of those days inside of our own development department. So unifying the design, building a web-based designer, which is a big task for us. It's all something I see happening in our future. The other one is runtime on-premise, which it comes up with some of our customers. So this is built inside of the cloud multi-tenant today. The plan is to support customers using runtime data behind their firewalls. Not too dissimilar from the way that IFS does their IFS cloud on-premise today. And we've talked about it a little bit in a few meetings, but this is a great opportunity to say this roadmap consistently changes. We are making changes to it quarterly typically. I would say that in general, we lock down a quarter, so we know what our next quarter is, but the rest is up to you. We are looking for feedback. If you don't know about user voice, it's a great opportunity to go onto user voice and voice your opinions. You will see changes in our roadmap based on your feedback. So this is a great way to stay in touch with the product group today. That's all I have. If you have any questions for me, you know where to find me, but thank you very much.